be reviewing Alexandria Fragrances' Sweetest Oud. This is one of the newer releases. It's been very well received in the fragrance group, certainly in the Alexandria group as well. This is their interpretation of Roja Dove's Sweetie Oud. So I've never smelled their version, nor have I smelled the real thing. And I don't own the real thing. Thankfully, I was able to get a sample from Serene, which is just this fantastic individual. He's given me samples in the past. He sent this to me free of charge, along with several other samples, which I will be reviewing going forward. He's a great guy all around. And I'm sure a lot of you already know that because you're familiar with the groups and everything else. But thanks again, man. Obviously, this video would not have been possible without you. It's one thing to be able to smell an inspiration and say if it smells good or what you get from it. But, when you have the original to compare it to, it really allows you to show how good of a cologne it actually is, how good of an inspiration it is, and whether or not it's something that, could replace the original, which is what a lot of people are looking for in an inspiration. So thanks again. I really do appreciate it. Obviously you didn't have to do that and you just reached out and offered to, so I really appreciate that. But getting into the review, so Sweetie Oud is a gourmand style fragrance. The inspiration behind it, from what I have seen, and it seems like they were trying to recreate the kind of experience that you would have going into a pastry shop. Baked goods, sweet baked goods, that kind of smell in the air from those baking in a bakery. That was at least my understanding of what the goal was behind it. I did look up the notes. I'll read them to you all. So it's got bergamot, oud, obviously, balsam, juniper, amyris, patchouli, labdanum, guaiac wood, cumin, cedar, and cypre oil, and nargamoth. So it's got a lot of not very common ingredients, well, at least to be put together. There's also cardamom in here as well, and rose. So the cardamom's probably where it's getting the sweetness, probably somewhat from the rose as well. But it seems like it'd be very woody, but obviously it is a gourmand style fragrance, so I imagine it's not overly woody. It is, however, called Sweetie Oud, so I imagine there's going to be some woods in there. Now, I'm going to test these both on the skin just to give a better, review as far as how they smell. Since I am doing a comparison between the two, I think it's important to make them, as realistic as possible as far as how it's going to actually smell. So, everybody knows in the community that you spray something on paper, it develops differently. Sometimes it can smell quite drastically different than the original. So we're going to see how they smell, and then I will report back later on, performance, projection and longevity, everything like that, and how the scent develops on my skin throughout the day. Right now, it's just giving me my first impressions on what I'm getting. So, again, here's Alexandria's version, Sweetest Oud, and then here's the sample that I'm going to be comparing it to. So, I'll start with the real one. I'm going to spray it on my hand. Ooh. Okay. Definitely woody, sweet. I get more of where even in the opening, where kind of the baked goods idea is coming from. It smells more like rolls to me, maybe like sweet buns or something like that, or sweet rolls, than something like donuts or some other kind of, pastry. But you get this like sweet, and the woods is, I think, what's doing it. It gives it this kind of, it smells like baked goods. And it's not overly sweet though. It is gourmand in the sense that it smells like food, and it's sweet. It's certainly something you would only want to wear in the fall and the winter. And you get the rose in there too. It's interesting because these are notes that really you wouldn't think would remind you of that, but the way they come together, the way the rose and the woods come together with the cardamom really kind of makes it this smell like a bakery. It's very pleasant. It's definitely unisex. Yeah, it's like the oud that's used in here is very inoffensive. It's not medicinal. It's not animalic. It's this nice smooth wood. It's not overly dry either. Again, it's, you get this kind of not juicy, but like just, I mean, it smells like baked goods. You get like this sweet wood, but it's done very well. When I first smelled this, I almost got like kind of a cinnamon vibe too. I think it's just some of the sweetness and how the notes are kind of coming together. But it does. It reminds me of like sweet rolls, what that would smell like baking in an oven, essentially. It's got a masculineness to it to an extent because of the woods. But again, they're smooth and it's not medicinal or animalic. The oud in here is very inoffensive. I could see it being very mass appealing, and that sweetness added to it is certainly amps up that mass appeal factor. It definitely smells edible in the sense that, it's going to be something that people want to smell more of and want to get closer to. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. So when I first, heard of it, I was like, it kind of sounds weird. I mean, it was cool in the sense that I like when they try to do things like that, just like I like the Replica series. I think it's cool when they try to make a fragrance that's going to remind you of actually being in some sort of either place or in some like experience, and that you can recall based on that from through scent memory or whatever. And it's, to me, that is really cool. And that's kind of what you get here. It's not developing a whole bunch. It smells like it's staying pretty linear. Again, I just sprayed it on though, so that might change. I'm going to go ahead and spray on Alexandria's version on my other hand. Okay. They smell similar, but there's a difference for sure. They give off a similar vibe. This smells almost, the wood smell, it still smells gourmandish. It still smells like kind of a bakery, but it smells a lot different. It's like if you walked into the same bakery, but they were making like cinnamon rolls or something. I'm getting this even more of a cinnamon vibe with the Alexandria version. It's not very present in here. It doesn't smell, the ingredients smell kind of meshed together more. The notes, whereas in Roja's it's like you can kind of smell almost, you pick out the notes better, the individual notes. Yeah, and when I smell it, it doesn't have that same, I don't know, to be honest with you. It's like it smells good, but at the same time, it's almost part of it that's kind of slightly off-putting. I would imagine in the sillage, they probably get closer. But this, from the get-go, smelling it, the real one smelled, very good. And it was absolutely something that like I wanted to keep smelling. This one, I'm hoping and waiting it's going to change. But it's sweet. But it's got like this almost, not dankness to it, but like something that's just really kind of throwing it off. Yeah, I'm not huge on this one, to be honest with you. This one's really good, and it is drying down, and it's changing as it's drying down. I'm almost getting like this It's interesting. As it dries down, it almost kind of reminds me of some sort of like incense or something. Not like Catholic incense that you get in a church, but like ones you'll find in like gas stations they burn. You're getting that kind of vibe. There's like almost this like smokiness to it in the dry down, which I really do like. Alexandria, again, you smell it and there's something that's just, it's not doing it for me. And I am usually a huge fan of Alexandria Fragrances. Anybody who watches this channel knows that. This is one I feel like it's not going to replace it. I'd say it's 80% there. You get a similar vibe. Again, the same notes are there. You can pick them out, but not in the same way. Like it's the same scent profile, but it smells like they were kind of blended together more and kind of meshed together more. And normally that might sound like a good thing, but it's not because it makes it more messy in the sense that you're not really getting the scent profile how it's supposed to. The fragrance isn't being enjoyed how it's supposed to. It's just kind of blurring the notes, and something in here is amped up. And I don't know what that is. It's quite possibly the rose, and that might be what is weirding me out. It could be the rose they used, the note they used, or it's just a lot stronger. And it's overpowering everything else, and it's kind of, I don't know, when I smell it, it almost makes me nauseous. And that's saying a lot, because I smell this and I want to keep smelling it. So anyway, it's 80% there. I think it's the rose, but I think not only did they use a different type of rose, because this one is a lot smoother smelling, very smooth. I think they amped up the rose as well. So it's making it almost like you had, you know, the bakery, the kind of the pastry vibe you're getting, the fresh baked goods, but there's this heavy dose of rose on top of that, and it's just not a combination that, you know, works well. Okay, floral component on top of that is not something that works well, but the rose here is more subtle, and it adds a sweetness to it and smoothness to the scent profile, and it works very well. Especially as it goes to dry down and you get that, again, more of like an incense-like vibe. That rose adds this kind of creaminess to it. It's really good. It works really well in the original. Not so much in Sweetie Oud. I would not recommend Sweetie Oud. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not a huge fan on it. The original, this is good. It is good. If you're a gourmand lover, it's certainly unisex. Women or men could wear this. It's very versatile as far as like settings you could wear it in. Now the season it's not. I think this is absolutely a fall and winter type of fragrance, but it smells really good. It is unfortunately not one of Alexandria's best. Now I know Dua has one called Scrumptious or something like that. I will try that. Based on my prior videos and reviews and experience comparing Dua to Alexandria, I don't have high hopes that it's going to be any closer, but it could be. There are situations that I have had where I thought the Dua was better than the Alexandria. So, you know, I'll try it out and I'll do a Clone Wars versus those two. But I'll tell you right now, this isn't a replacement for the real one. Even for the money, it's not even. I mean, it's drying down, and it still has that. Yeah, it's off-putting. Whereas this one makes you smile. I mean, it is what it is. But again, they amped up the rose. Is how it's coming off to me. It's an amped up rose, and it's a less realistic rose. It smells synthetic. It's not creamy. It doesn't add to the fragrance. It takes away, if anything, because it's making this something that would normally smell almost like, again, edible, and throwing a floral punch into it that's, to me, ruining the whole thing. It's, again, making me kind of, honestly, nauseous smelling it. I'd say, again, 80% there. You get a similar scent profile, but it doesn't work the same way. And I would not recommend buying it. So, yeah. Hopefully this was helpful if anybody's interested in, you know, buying it. I will wear it. I will, for performance protection, anybody who is curious in buying it, as well as let you know how it develops. I'm also curious how Sweetie Oud's going to develop on the skin as the day goes on. So I will do a follow-up video or do what I normally do and put it in the comments, one of the two. And then I will pick up a sample of Scrumptious to compare it to them. But yeah, Alexandria, this is a miss on their end. So I would avoid it personally.